Welcome to another edition of WRAL Triangle and 2. I'm Mark Bergen. He's Luis Fernandez, recapping an absolutely loaded week of football. Luis, we're going to start right off the top. Panthers losing to the Seattle Seahawks. Andy Dalton really isn't even the biggest problem with the Panthers team currently, Luis. I'm of the opinion, though. Why is he throwing the ball nearly 60 times in a game? Not a recipe for success. I want to get your thoughts from the Panthers' loss to the Seahawks on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what stood out to me too. Only one player has thrown the ball more in a single game for the Panthers than Andy Dalton did, and that was Chris Wenke. But he did it twice. I think it was like 63 and 61. I want to say back in like 2001 and 2006, which is pretty wild. Like more than Cam Newton ever threw the ball in a single game. More than I think the most recent iterations of this are like Kyle Allen. Not Sam Darnold. I think Taylor Heineke was up there in one time. And the theme was in all these situations recently where it's been like, you know, a quarterback has thrown the ball more than 50 times for the Panthers. It's all been a loss. Every single one. Every single one was a bad performance. So Andy Dalton probably had the best performance of the bunch. I don't know. It was one of those games where the Panthers played well in some areas, stopping the Seahawks in the red zone so often and forcing their first, I think it was 15 points to be just field goals. Jason Myers' leg got to ice it up or something at this point. That is good from the defense, especially when they were hurt so often. You saw a lot of players leaving the game. C.J. Henderson, Frankie Louvu, on top of Shaq Thompson's injury. So that was definitely a tough position for the Panthers to be in. I'm just a little confused offensively with what's going on. Like, you know, I think part of the reason they're not running it all the time is because they don't really have the run blocking to do it right now. It's in some of those ways you saw the passing game serve as an extension of the running game, but it just feels to me like the Panthers are still searching for an identity. And I don't know what they are at this point. I don't think they know what they are. This is the first 0-3 start, even though the Panthers have been bad the past few years. This is the first 0-3 start for them since 2010. So I don't know. It's just one of those games where you're like, all right, I don't know what really to expect at this point. And I don't think the Panthers know either. That's the thing.
Identity is the word that I'm going to hone in on, Luis, of everything that you just said, and a lot of great information there too, by the way, too. You bring in Miles Sanders to move the chains, the Super Bowl experience, being in the Super Bowl with the Eagles a year ago. I understand if the running game's not there, but you at least can shorten the game and not like time of possession is still a factor, particularly when your offense isn't a high flying, high powered, high scoring offense that's going to light up a scoreboard. Mm-hmm. So it's not flashy, but when your team's not great, you have to be able to at least run the ball to shorten the game to help out your defense. Like it's not flashy at all, but when I see Andy Dalton, I thought actually looked serviceable in this game. It seemed they couldn't stop Kenneth Walker from getting into the end zone defensively. And the question we're going to have to ask ourselves moving forward and looking at the Panthers' schedule is like, when's the first win coming with Frank Reich and company? And Frank Reich was supposed to be an offensive coach because Minnesota next weekend, a pair of 0-3 teams. Maybe you get it there, but then a stout Lions team. I don't even know how many points the Dolphins are going to score. And then you got the Texans in. And you look at the Texans too, Luis. CJ Stroud's doing his thing. Anthony Richardson was doing his thing before he got hurt. But when do you think the first victory comes?
I don't know. Like, I mean, playing the Vikings this upcoming week, the Vikings playing really weird games. So, hey, there you go. Maybe that's part of it. I do think Andy Dalton was like you said, serviceable. He was what you want a backup quarterback to be. You know, I'm an Andy Dalton truther, but he was like, you know, that's exactly what you want out of a backup quarterback. Someone who can come in and put you in an opportunity to win a game. That's what you want, and that's what he did. I do think the wide receivers are still a problem in terms of there were a lot more chunk plays in that game. I think part of that was because Andy had a little more time to throw the ball, and DJ Chark had a much better game. A lot of credit needs to be given to DJ Chark. Adam Thielen was able to get open off of secondary action, meaning once Andy Dalton rolled out of the pocket or whatever it might be after the initial play started to fall apart. But the wide receivers still were having issues separating. I don't know. It's tricky. It could be a bit. And I do think that part of this is about expectations, right? I know I've said this a lot, and we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, that the expectations for the Panthers this season should be leaving the season knowing Bryce Young is the guy. That should be the expectations. Because I know there was a lot of talk about the Panthers could make the playoffs and the NFC South is bad. And maybe there are opportunities.
It's not going to happen this year.
Just get that out of your head, because part of it was you look at the second half of what the Panthers did last year, right? When they went on that nice little win streak and showed some stuff. When they beat the Seattle team last year, they were playing a low ceiling football and what I mean by that is they were solid defense, run the ball, control the clock. That's the kind of thing that will get you wins in the short term, but does not result in success in the long term. It puts a cap on what you're capable of doing. And I think that's why things change a little bit with Bryce Young, because if I'm the Panthers with Bryce Young, I am not playing to try and win every single game just for the sake of getting wins. I am playing for the hope of developing this team and making Bryce Young better. That's what you're doing this season. So, I mean, you play to win the game, of course. And, it's easy for me to say, well, my job wouldn't be on the line in that situation. But, like, you're playing to develop this team. You want to see improvement. And so now they're just kind of in a tricky situation where you wait for Bryce Young to get healthy, where you can't really – like, all right, I guess we got to focus on just trying to win every single situation based on what we got going on. I don't know. That maybe that sounds a little silly to say, but I really think the wins and losses do not matter this year with the Panthers. It's about figuring out if Bryce Young's the guy, and then you can grow around him. Then you can go get, those top flight receivers to help him out, improve the offensive line, all of that kind of stuff.
Young out with an injury, and I don't know if I should put that in air quotes or not, but an ankle injury. I know there's some conspiracy theorists. No, you're laughing, but he didn't play. Okay. The crowd was a factor in Seattle. 13 penalties, 82 yards. It's almost a full length of a football field. 9 of those penalties, false starts or an illegal shift. So a huge difference in that game playing in Seattle, which is why some of the conspiracy theorists thought Dalton was starting instead of Bryce Young. I'm curious to see, is Young back this week? Are they going to wait another week? If you don't take care of business against the Vikings, against the Lions, you're not going to be favored. Against the Dolphins, you're not going to be favored. At home against the Texans, Halloween weekend, Lewis, is potentially the next time that the Panthers could win a game. It's like, we're talking about a whole month if you don't take care of business this weekend against a fellow 0-3 team.
I mean, I'm looking at the schedule now, and I mean, right now, because the Texans look like, decent. They look solid. I don't want to hear the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Like, come on, we're 3 weeks into the season. See, I know Panthers fans don't want to hear this. I know Panthers fans don't want to hear this, but the Texans have a better infrastructure around Bryce Young right now, offensively.
CJ Stroud. Stroud.
Oh, did I say CJ Stroud? Yes. So the Texans have a better system set up around them. At the moment offensively. So no, but I mean, I look at that schedule, and like the only time I'm at that game in those games where I'm like, oh yeah, that's a win. Bears, November 9th. It's September 25th when we're recording this. That's not good.
And remember, the Bears have the Panthers pick.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, Mark. We're only 3 weeks into the season. So a lot of things change, a lot of things grow, a lot of things develop. So there's frustration from Panthers Nation, I'm sure. But at this point, you just got to take it week by week. Understand you're not playing for the playoffs. You're playing to get better this season. That's how I view it. It's a process. And I know after years of Matt Rule's process, I'm sure it's quite frustrating. But I mean, that's just it. That's just what it is. It's just the reality of the situation. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's just what's going on.
I have one final question for you, Lewis. Did it feel good to dust off the Andy Dalton jersey from the wardrobe deep in the archives to be able to break that out this weekend?
So I actually had an Andy Dalton jersey, to put that in perspective.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where it's like the like 14, the orange and white 14 is starting to like chip away and fade away.
Mhm.
I invested in the beginning of that Bengals Andy Dalton AJ Green era. I invested hard in AJ Green versus Andy Dalton. Okay, first off, the one of the greatest wide receivers that no one talks about, in my opinion, at least
That's fair.
AJ Green. But yeah, that's the Andy Dalton jersey is it's chilling somewhere.
I love it. Moving on. College game day is coming to Durham. Duke hosting Notre Dame. I really wish Notre Dame was also undefeated. The Irish didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Nonetheless, game day will be in Durham for the very first time in the history of the show for football. Mike Elko's building in Durham, and he got a 2-year contract extension on the eve of the season, coming off a 9-win season. Riley Leonard's looking like a promising pick. I hope we could get a sellout in Durham for this game. The Irish fans travel well, as we saw a few weeks ago against NC State. So I think that we will. But it was like a few weeks back, Duke's playing Northwestern. The stadium's half full or half empty, whichever perspective you want to look at it. But there's some excitement in the Triangle and Riley Leonard. Like, I wouldn't go as far to say Heisman campaign, but they knocked off Clemson. If they beat Notre Dame too,
No,
you're not even going to entertain it.
no, okay. This is what I will say. First off, like so much credit has to be given to Mike Elko for what has happened. Truly,
Okay?
like what Duke has been able to do is incredible. For them to have the kind of success that they have had to garner
Mm-hmm.
the national attention that they have garnered. I mean, they're 17 in the country right now. And some people would argue there are teams ahead of them that probably shouldn't be ahead of them. Like it feels sacrilege to say, but like Alabama or something like that. Like, hey, Duke's undefeated. So there's a lot of credit that needs to be given out. I don't think there's going to be an issue with them selling this out because it just that Clemson crowd was just electric, and I think that's going to be a pretty similar environment to what you're going to see. I do. You hit the nail on the head there, though, Mark. I was like, man, if I wish Notre Dame would have finished that, not just because I picked them to win, but like, what are you doing? Regardless, no, it's very exciting. I don't know what I don't know how Duke is going to perform in this game. I think the two teams are similar in a lot of ways right now. Just strong defense, wants to run the ball. Really, I think it's just going to come down to can Duke get stops against Notre Dame, and then Riley Leonard versus Sam Hartman. That's going to be fun.
Notre Dame deserved to lose Saturday night against Ohio State. I'll walk you through why. Wasn't the last, not only on the touchdown that Notre Dame gives up late in that game, 10 players on the field. The play before, you have 10 players on the field. You have coaching staff that's massive. You have guys up in the box. You have the players on the field. Like, Lewis, you played football. If your teammate's not lined up next to you, where's the edge rusher? Where's the defensive end? And I didn't notice it at first. I saw an overhead shot, and it's like Jeff Schwartz, who's a great football analyst, is like, I guarantee they're missing an end here because you had 3 down defensive linemen all to the right of the center for Ohio State. On back-to-back plays, that happens. So that's one thing. DJ Brown for Notre Dame, trying to make a play, breaks on a ball goes through his hands. A good team is going to take advantage of your mistakes. That's what Ohio State did. I don't think either.
Yeah,
If Notre Dame had won the game, I don't think Ohio State's going to win the national title this year. But you have to be accountable for your own actions. Having 10 players on the field for not one but 2 plays, like for that final 4th down play, I am sending a lineman sprinting on the field, Lewis. Sprinting. Not 1, 2 plays. You lose the game.
Well, call the, it's one of those, it's kind of like a recognition type thing, right? Like I'm watching it live. They line up, getting ready to go. And I go, oh, run to the left side because there was nobody there. You had 2 linebackers standing up. And I think part of it too was you got 2 seconds left, I think is what it was at that point. So run kind of made sense to me in that situation because you're going to get one play regardless. And like if you're Notre Dame, just jump offside in that situation. They're going to move the ball, a foot closer? Is that going to make the difference versus having 10 guys on the field? I don't know. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback.
I just wish this game were undefeated going in. Credit Duke, though. So Duke enters as a 5.5-point underdog. We'll see what they need to do. I'm nervous that Notre Dame's going to come out for blood in this game and be mad that they lost the Ohio State game versus if they had beaten the Buckeyes and says, oh, we'll roll into Durham. We took care of the Big Ten's best. Little Duke, and they were looking past Duke. And it's just the mentality going into this game. And look, I saw Notre Dame play against NC State and Raleigh. They have some big boys up front. And if you're looking at two players to watch, Joe Alt at the left tackle position is a massive human. He completes his assignment and moves bodies at the line of scrimmage. And then Morrison, the cornerback, he'll be an NFL player coming off a freshman season where he had 6 picks. He's in the right position, right place. It seems like on every single play in coverage. Those are the two players with Duke that you have to game plan for in advance of Saturday's matchup.
Agreed. And listen, 2 things. If we want to look at the transitive property of football, right? Clemson almost beat, top 5 Florida State this weekend. I understand different times of the season at Clemson, all that stuff. But, there's something to keep in mind, showing that Duke is not a fluke. But also, I think you look at just what Duke is going to have to do to win this game. And I think it is going to come down to that offense is going to have to score points. And that's tough to do. We saw this weekend how good that Notre Dame defense is, between that defense slugfest that was Ohio State and Notre Dame. But I think the offense is going to have to score points. It's going to have to make chunk plays. It's going to have to continue to execute in the red zone. That is what that offense is going to have to do in order to have success. I think it's going to come down to them. And I think it's going to be a fun game. I really do. I think it's going to be a tight, fun game. And I'm excited. It's one of, if not the biggest football games in modern Duke history. Yeah, obviously, the ACC championship game against Texas A&M a few years back and Johnny Manziel, that's up there as well. But it's definitely one of the biggest games Duke football has played in quite some time.
If Elko and the Blue Devils pull off the upset, Duke then has to go back to Elko and say, we need to figure out your contract. I know they just gave him a 2-year extension, but Lewis, I'm being completely serious about this.
I know.
The program would poach him.
I agree.
If Duke wins this game, take care of Mike Elko, because coming off he wins 9 games after Duke hadn't won 13 consecutive ACC games, and you've got game day, and we'll see if this game can live up to the hype. Keeping it in the triangle, though, Lewis. NC State against Virginia, escaping on Friday night. I understand the Wolfpack have injuries at the safety position. I understand Jordan Houston is no longer on the team. The team's leading rusher going into this game. Dave Doeren's in year 11. We always ask for players and coaches to be honest when you ask them questions. You're playing in a nationally televised game on ESPN against a winless Virginia team. Take advantage of that opportunity. It's a recruiting opportunity where someone gets to see you in the national limelight that otherwise wouldn't be exposed to NC State athletics. And it's, just be happy we won against a winless Virginia team. If I were a Wolfpack fan, I would be very frustrated right now because you're expecting Brennan Armstrong to go up against his former team and to light it up on the scoreboard. And that didn't happen on Friday night. Certainly you're happy your team won. But it's just like, what are we trying to aspire for here on a bigger picture? If I was a Wolfpack fan, I would be upset. I would be. And I can't repeat what Dave Doeren said because he curses. So it's like, I can't repeat verbatim what he said after the game, Lewis. But it's like, you have an opportunity on a national stage. Make the most of that. Make the best of that. And NC State plays again on Friday night against Louisville here in Raleigh. That's another opportunity where you're going to have a nationally televised game. Everyone knows what ESPN is, Lewis. They might not know what the CBS Sports Network is, which is what you played on during the opening week of the season. It's a little bit harder to find. Making the most of the opportunity that you have in front of you instead of say, we have players who have had injuries or we had a player who had a baby and all of these other things. Lewis, we have to do this podcast, and people, they want to see the end product. And it's just like, the reason why I get so passionate about this is Dave Doeren is one of the highest paid public employees in the state, and he's got a great opportunity. Make the most of that. And it's just like, I'm not seeing that. And in year 11, that's the frustration. I'm speaking for the Wolfpack fans in my impassioned plea here, Lewis. That's where this stems from. This is where this comes from.
Yeah, I understand, like, things happen, and like, there are reasons why certain games are harder than others. I get that. But it's just, you don't want to hear the excuses. You don't want to hear those type of things. I don't know. They're 3-1, and they're going to be hosting 4-0 Louisville on Friday. A Louisville team that, has looked very impressive. Absolutely just crushed Boston College this weekend. So I know you want to talk about opportunities. This is a prime opportunity for NC State, for everyone to say, hey, all the attention's on Duke football with College GameDay. UNC's 4-0 for the first time since 1997. Hey, don't forget about us. It's a prime opportunity for NC State.
I wish we knew more about the circumstances of Jordan Houston's transfer as well. We can report the information that we're given, Lewis, as people who cover the team and write about it on WRALSportsFan.com. And look, they do get the win, but it's against a winless Virginia team. You escape by a 3-point game. And it's like, okay, look at NC State's schedule the rest of the way. And you got Louisville this weekend in your backyard, an undefeated team. Marshall, potentially you go into that Duke game on October the 14th with 2 more wins on your resume. You should, if you take care of business. Back-to-back home games.
You should be 4-2.
Clemson on Halloween weekend, where I'm looking at it, and it's like Clemson may very well be down this year, Lewis. But like, let's be honest here. There's a reason why Dave Doeren's beaten Clemson once during his tenure. Like, let's be real here. We'll wrap. Upbeat news. UNC's got a bye. They go into the bye week. Drake May throwing a left-handed touchdown. Going into the year, the question was, could Drake May adjust to the adjustments? And I think this is a special player. If he goes to the right fit and right franchise in the NFL, I don't want to look past this season too soon, because UNC's rolling right now. But this, to me right now, like, this might be the most exciting time we've seen in Triangle football history since when? I mean, it's been a long, long time, and UNC takes care of Pittsburgh this past weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if you just want to talk about, like, I need to honestly go back and see if I can find this info out. But like, I don't know the last time Duke and UNC would have started the season 4-0. And NC State, I don't think there's as much excitement about NC State as the other two, like we've talked about recently, but they're still 3-1. For these three teams to be, 11-1 after 4 weeks, that feels pretty historic in some ways. Would love to find out more about that. I mean, yeah, UNC, like, I think there are going to be people who kind of box score watch a little bit with this UNC game against Pitt and say, oh, wow, look, Pitt jumped out to an early lead, and look at X, Y, and Z, and oh, wow, that fourth quarter was really weird and all this stuff. That game was over after the first score in the third quarter. And it was more about just like UNC got uber conservative and just game managed the rest of the way. So I don't know. I think this UNC team is legit. I think their defense is the best it's been under Mac Brown. I think Nate McCullum, JJ Jones, he was someone who was really taking a next step in this game. I had over 100 yards receiving. They've shown that they can score in multiple ways with Amarion Hampton, British Brooks, and that run game in general. My one concern continues to be pass blocking. I think it's solid, but can be exploited. So that's something I'm watching for. And some of that is a combination of Drake May making sure he gets rid of the ball quickly. And, not just on the offensive line, tight ends, running backs. So I think it's a bit of a synergy type thing, but they're in good position. I mean, they have this bye. You go into a bye week undefeated. That's always great. And then you've got Syracuse, who could very well be undefeated as well, going into Keenan next week. It's really exciting. I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said, it's really exciting time in Triangle football.
When Mac Brown is comparing Nate McCollum to Josh Downs in the same sentence, that tells me everything I need to know.
A guy who had the most targets, by the way, for the Colts in their ups against Baltimore.
I love that you know that just off the top of your head. Lewis is a UNC guy through and through. And so, look, like, we'll see if the Triangle teams can keep it rolling. Game day in Durham is going to be fantastic. Can't wait to see Lee Corso and the boys there. Lewis, anything you need to plug here before we wrap up? This has been another edition of Triangle in 2.
No, just stay tuned to WRAL this week. We're going to have plenty of coverage on that College GameDay, Duke versus Notre Dame situation. We're going to dive into the history a bit of it, just in terms of big picture with Duke football. Plenty of coverage for that NC State Louisville game on Friday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. It's a good football season so far. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what comes next as we are almost halfway through the year.
For Luis Fernandez, I'm Mark Bergen. Thanks for watching WRAL Triangle in 2. We'll see you next week. Until then, take care. So long, everybody.